Hey you, if you're into what I'm up to on this channel, please hit the link in the description or in the comments and support my Patreon. You'll get access to my comic strips and for all the secret videos that I post only there. I love you. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Wow, so that's the same apartment building that I lived in Columbus.
Yeah. No, I got a sorry, I haven't talked to anyone all day, so I'm like rusty. I'm on unit 4. So
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was on the top floor. I had a gigantic window, and I remember in the summer it was so hot in that apartment. Unlivable, so hot.
somebody like left an AC unit in my bedroom and
Okay.
it's just there. Yeah, no, I'm like, that was the best deal that I could have gotten on that, but I'm gonna have to figure something out for when it gets crazy. But
I took one of the giant space air conditioners from the comic shop there. What's it called? The Laughing Ogre.
yeah.
So I had that. It had like a big tube that I had to stick out the window.
Oh boy.
It like my energy bill was just like super high. You never went to, wait, didn't you go to Frank Santoro's school? Or did you not?
I did the residency for like a week, so it wasn't like I came in and Frank was like, I mean, Frank and Kevin are friends. Like Kevin is my like Professor X, Kevin Heisinger. So it's like he's. I think there was just a little bit of like, I don't know how much I can really teach you. Like I don't know, like I'm sure Kevin taught you well. Like it was more hands off, I think, than like some of the people that go there. It was a good experience. Like I'm just like, oh, like all the people that have to try and learn comics right now and pretend that it'll be okay. It's a hard sell.
It is definitely. But I think that most of teaching comics is honestly just like turning people on to other stuff, to being like, here, you should read this or you should watch this or something, and then just kind of go do your own thing.
Just that 10,000 hours kind of thing of just
Yeah,
like, you
yeah,
just got to make like a bunch of crap and then maybe we'll get somewhere here. But
yeah. Go to the library.
mhm.
Well, what were your comics like before you went to school for comics?
I mean, like, I would watch, like, I'm talking about like 5th and 6th grade here.
Yeah.
Like, I would just watch episodes of like Teen Titans on TV, like the newer one in the 2000s, and just be like, I'm gonna copy this plot with my own characters. Like this is dope. But this is like me drawing on printer paper. I didn't really do autobio until I went to school, so it was very much just like I got in there and was like trying to figure out if I could ever draw good enough to be like a big 2 person or something like that. There's a handful of people that were decent at that, but I think it was more, you're in art school, so you just see what hits and critique. And it was like, I can either get shit faced out of my mind and like tell these horror stories at parties and freak people out, or I can just put them on paper and remove myself from the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm not like an entity that's scaring people away from these stories that I think are interesting. So, and that was like people reading it being like, this is good, this is funny.
Do you feel like you need to get that stuff out? Like, is that something that you're trying to do with your comics? I mean, I get that question myself too, but it's like, do you feel like you have all this crazy stuff from your past and you're just like, I need to get this down on paper as some kind of exercise or something, or like some kind of weight lifted? I mean, does it feel better after you do it, or are you freaked out after you put something like that out into the world, you know?
I feel like I have generalized anxiety anytime I release anything, but it's not so much of like, oh, finally people will know or something like that. It's more like, well, I don't know what's going to happen, so we just have to like see what hits, I guess. Which is just more uncertain than like the grind of just being able to work every day and just move your hand. But no, I don't. And I did a whole like I did a whole like manic screamfest on my Patreon about how if you make like comics for art therapy, it's just like a bad idea and you shouldn't do it. But
tell me why. Why is it a bad idea?
Well, it's just so time intensive, and the fact that you're making like comics as art, it's like you can hang your pages on a wall and that's great. But to like be like, I'm gonna print 150 copies of this thing that needs to sell, and then people like will judge your experience based on like how you move units. That's fucked up. So I think that it's helpful to put things in order. I think that's what I get out of it. And then it's like, okay, like this is a sequence of events that like you get from point A to point B, but like so much of it is affected just by reorienting it for like a narrative structure that you, as good autobio folk in the room know, like you could become a fucking asshole, like just in the sense of like if you want to make yourself into this fucking I am God, I'm king in my own little world, like you're not going to get people interacting with you and enjoying your like presence and thinking about how they're going to be in your story or whatever. That's gross. So it's kind of like what do you want to prioritize? I feel like I don't want to sell my work short and then I haven't learned things about myself, but it's kind of like I don't know how much I want to give this credit because so much of it is like moved around or changed to suit a narrative that I want other people to read as a book and not being like, this is just me on paper, you know, even though a lot of it, like most of it's true, like good majority of it, I've scalped people's faces to protect them, but like, it's not, I don't just put things down and be like, I'm a pure creator. Like, this is just how it is. And I'm a genius. And like, no, it needs to be structured. Like curation. So.
Yeah, I know that's interesting. You can kind of take somebody's life and, you know, cherry pick it to make a specific narrative that you're looking for or something, you know. I've done that definitely. But like, you know, I always think about, I'm going to do like a book about just all the like experiences I've had with religion in my life and then just put that out. And that's just totally just going through my memories and going like, oh yeah, then there was this thing and plucking that out of the era that it happened in and then putting
like separate from your Joseph Smith book, like just like yeah.
Yeah, I want to do like a sequel to One Dirty Tree that's just focused entirely on the church stuff, you know, and what went wrong for me. And because I didn't really I haven't like explored that satisfactorily enough, you know, and I'd like to really get back into that.
So then do you go into that project being like, this is what I want to learn about myself? Or do you just go, this is like a good follow-up to One Dirty Tree and the fact that I'm doing this huge slog of like a book about Mormonism and stuff?
I guess it's more like this is what I want to learn about myself, because then it's also investigating, like interviewing my family members about what they remember about those years and stuff and how some of them fell away from it. Because I you know, I'm coming to the end of this Joseph Smith book, and now I go like, oh, now I feel like I know all the things I wanted to know about this church just from doing this project. So I feel like following that up now would be what was my entire experience within this person's church who I just spent years investigating, you know.
That's cool.
And
and you're like farther on in that you can be like you can cut the bullshit of like everyone knows me the character, like I don't need to do a bunch of fucking explanation, like you know my deal, so like this can just cut to the interesting shit. Whereas for me, I'm like I can't fuck around with people's attention span because it's just like we need to fucking go, like story narrative, like go. So there's a sort of like everything's already kind of built in because you have everyone, like you have an audience of people that are like aware of like who you are. So
is that how do you feel like you're introducing yourself to people still and you're kind of establishing like the foundation for where you want to go with comics?
I don't know. I mean, well, and this is the weird thing where it's like I've released so many things this year where it's like I don't even remember like the last fucking show I did. I don't even, well, because it was literally like I think it was probably just like a cake. Because it was like I didn't do a bunch of shows because I was making a book and I was like, I don't need to go to shows. I don't need to pay all this money to travel. But I've put out like a bunch of minis and reissue stuff, and I've like put a bunch more wholesale in at distros. And then this book's coming out, So then it's like, I don't know. I mean, I don't have any like idea of how I'm going to show up to a show and be received or anything. Cause this is just fucking stupid and gross. But like, I don't like, who knows who the fuck's going to read it right now based on just like what's going on. Like, it's very weird because it's like, I know that some publishers just from their end on their websites are doing great, but then you have bookstores that are like fucking dying. So, but I feel like people are getting more accustomed to some level of my work, or at least like what they can expect from me. But it's kind of, yeah, these are the people that are like my friends, right? People that are already reading my shit. So
Well, that's exciting though. I like that era where you're just able to basically introduce yourself to people so that you're somebody that they watch, and then you can just go forward and do whatever.
well, and that's the thing about like this fucking years. It's been like I've been wanting to just like go up to people that like maybe in years past I would have like had the idea of me like they wouldn't give a fuck about me, you know what I mean? Like where I want to introduce myself, and I'm good about doing it. But it was like, man, I wanted to go to Toronto and like talk to these people or like go to the show, and now it's like, you know, for whatever we're old enough to know not to expect a certain amount of money from this. So it's like I'd like to go to this new thing or meet this cartoonist. So,
well, when did Desperate Pleasures come out? Is it out officially in the stores yet, or is it coming soon?
I mean, I think it is. It's you can buy it from Uncivilized or from my website. It's out in some ways. It came out. People started reading it in like October, November. So.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah.
You've been tagged in like Instagram with like posts, people like on their story, like
yeah. No, people are reading it and getting it, and I've had the handful of like the virtual book tours that we're stuck to doing right now, where it's like we have books in our store, come get them.
Yeah.
And I did all the little signature signed book plate things, so
cool.
It's out there. It's around. People, I got a nice review from Ryan Carey about it. Like it's good. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't even get reviews anymore. I think I'm past it. Nobody reviews my shit. yeah.
It's tough, but I don't feel like print fiction's doing great right now either. It's kind of like, I think that we have this idea that like people who write print books are like fucking windsurfing somewhere and we're like missing out, but I don't think anyone who makes any printed matter is like killing it right now. So
yeah, that's true. What? So how productive have you been during shutdown? Have you gotten anything done? Like any other?
So much done. Oh my god.
You have a new book?
Well, I finished Desperate Pleasures at the beginning. I did all the graphite shit in there, took forever.
That's beautiful, by the way. That's amazing. I love that style switch up.
Thank you. My mom really liked it too. But I did a whole mini, that Rotten comic I did all that. I did a piece for Now, which is going to be in the Now next year.
Cool.
I've done just like a handful of weird little side projects for friends and stuff. But no, I'm working on my third book right now. I'm like 10 pages in, and I've written all of it, and I'm just churning it out. So I'm training like a handful of people here in a very like socially distanced, responsible way, not in a gym. And that's going fine, but I'm gonna probably be teaching a little bit at the College of Art and Design too. I'll do like a class. I'm gonna dip my toe in that, see how much it fucks up my like book flow. But I saved a ton of money because I got like fired from the gym when everything went to shit. So like I got unemployment in Minnesota for like the whole of that $600 like extra a month. So I was getting like paid like $1,000 a month, like a week to make comics. I was like, oh, this is the dream. This is great. If the gym was open right now, this would be the best. So
yeah,
like, it was. I still have some of that money where it's like I'm hold on to that and make sure I have like a buffer. So.
Yeah. So when did you actually move to Columbus? What month was it?
September.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So you've barely been there. What is the comic that you did for Now? Was it autobio as well, or did you do something?
Yeah. I did. So in March of this year, I went to the Arnold, like I do. My good friend Alice Bradshaw, she's a powerlifter. So she does like squat, bench, and deadlift, just like crazy heavy. And she's like 5 feet tall. And so she's just like this giant swole motherfucker. But she actually like qualified where like the people at the Arnold were like, we need you here to lift. And so she was like, can you come and be my like fake powerlifting coach? I was like, absolutely. So I then spooled that into doing like a book reading tour thing for Tinderella when we re-released it. And it was like right as like COVID was like really becoming a thing, and that like South by Southwest got canceled. So we're like watching civilization slowly shut down because the Arnold was technically canceled, but the athletes were still coming to compete. So I just did like a comic about like the last hurrah before we all were like stuck inside. And it was a really fun experience. I'm really glad we did it, even though like the whole time we're like, I think we're fucking up right now, and that we're just going out to bars and spitting in each other's mouths and having a good time. So have you seen a huge influx in terms of like getting rat fucked out of money because of all of this? Or has it just been kind of like, well, everyone now lives my life of just being inside and doing the same thing every day?
I haven't lost any money because of COVID. I've only lost money because I made the mistake of signing a book deal for a book that was going to take me a long time to do. So like,
that's just being a cartoonist then.
Yeah, like I can't find other money because all the time I have to draw, I need to be drawing this one book that I'm not going to get any money for until I finish it. When you finish your third book, do you have plans on putting out for like 2022 or something? Or are you going to, should
something
you?
like that, yeah.
That's
like 2023, like I kind of thinking between those two, and that I'm like, well, I could either work really, really hard and like break my back and like get this done in like 2 years. Because I'm going to do like way more panels per page. I've just like bought into like 9 to 12. And I'm like,
yeah.
Fuck, okay. Like to expect that this would get done at like the same page rate is going to be a little bit of a brain bend. But no, I don't know. I'm enjoying like baking and being a human too. So I'm like, you made Desperate Pleasures. Like you've made all these minis. Like hopefully people will care enough you can check out for a couple years and then return and do your thing, and it's understood.
Do you have that anxiety of if you take some time away from the spotlight, people are going to forget you and move on in this world? You have to reintroduce yourself?
I mean, I don't think so. I think I would assume similarly to yourself. I just feel whole when I'm working on comics all the time, and like when you have to like stop doing that to go and travel for it or like do some other part of the process, like the moment I have to like do any kind of like final like editing in Photoshop, I'm like itchy because I'm like staring at a screen and not paper, and I'm like, I don't like it, like I don't want to do this. So just realizing ultimately that like everything is just like a means to return to making things again, and not like getting too hung up in any of the shit you can't control, because it's just, as COVID has reinforced in my mind, it's like you don't know if anyone's gonna give a fuck, so just like do what you're gonna do. So
well, let me ask you about your process for a second here, because Desperate Pleasure seems like it's pretty tight, like the narrative's pretty damn tight. So I was thinking, like, did she write this out before she started drawing it, or is it something that you kind of go like, I want to get this memory out, and then it kind of builds itself?
Well, like I kind of built it around the themes that were in it. Like for my books, like this is like my third book. It's just sitting here because I'm got all this shit on my table. I mean, it looks similarly to Desperate Pleasures in that it's just like fucking thumbnails on paper, where it's like I'm just moving from like one thing to the other. It's like all in fucking pencil. You can't even see it. But like, I don't know. I kind of like plotted out of like, I would ideally like it to be this long page wise. I want like this kind of pattern beat of like the ship motif, or like this specific character, or like these instances where I'm like showing these same panels over and over again. Like I was kind of like peppering them throughout, like more like on a graph than anything. And just kind of like rearranging post-it notes of being like, this has to occur before this. And because it's like non-linear in that it's just kind of like mimicking like the thought pattern of someone who's just like out of their fucking gourd.
This is your new book you're talking about, right?
No, I'm talking about Desperate Pleasures, and that it's like no. Like my third one's gonna be all like orderly time, and that I'm like, you have to tell a book without too much of bullshit flashbacks. Like,
yeah,
new challenge. No, but I was making like this tiramisu of like real factual things that have happened, but like figuring out how to like reorient them in a way that like was more intuitive to me.
Yeah.
So it's a kind of book where I'm like telling people, I'm like, yeah, it like makes more sense if you like read it twice and stuff. Like, not because my genius like takes that long to digest. It's just more like, nah, this is just like how I had to do it. So, yeah.
Is there stuff that you've taken out? Were there deleted scenes from this book? You ever do that?
Oh yeah, like there's tons of bullshit dialogue and narration that's just fruity and you don't need. And like, I mean, even still, I feel like I left some of it in that I could have taken out, but no, like all of it's just like curation. So it's just like what are the things, you know, like the things that you want to put into your autobio because they happened and they were real and they happened to you, but maybe no one gives a fuck and they don't really make sense in a scene to like take you out of it. So just going through with like a non-precious scalpel and like getting things out that were like just don't serve the narrative. So
yeah, I'm really messy, and I always give too much information. I never realized it at the moment, but then when I look over my work again, I'm just like, I don't need any of this, and this is just like bogging it down. Or, you know, who's this character? Like, why did I put this person in there? You know, so like One Dirty Tree, for example, was a lot longer. But I really chopped that book up to just like basically the essential stuff that I wanted to tell. Yeah, so that book was totally a chopped up version of what it had been on the Patreon that I was originally posting it all on, you know?
I don't know. I feel like all good autobio just has to be curation of like shit it out and then go through and edit because it can't be, I don't know. I don't know a lot of people that work like additively in their like memoir. But I just go through like first draft and that I'm like, if I'm not sure like what exactly is going to happen because I get stuck or whatever, but I know I want like a 9-panel grid, I'll just like leave that there and then like scoot ahead to where I need to be. Because I mean, I feel like I work with like an overarching theme and just like this is like the kind of idea of like what I'm working with, and then like ultimately all the drawings and words will marry into that. So
Tinderella is that's all true stuff.
Yeah, all of this is true. It's just how well did I draw all these people and that like how recognizable they are, because I've had the conversations with the men, the gentlemen in the books, where it's like, if you're still in my life, it's I'm giving you the heads up, this is coming. We can have our own 6-7 hour conversation about what this is. And it's usually just men apologizing to me, and then I perform therapy for them. But whatever. But that's another thing. When people read your stuff, like, what would you say the spectrum of emotion is behind it? Like, does it initiate a lot of conversations for you, or you're actually like getting a good conversation out of it, or is a lot of like, fuck you, you suck?
It depends on what book what story it is. I do some autobio, but, and you know, the mustache Noah is not necessarily me. Like that's a joke that's me. So mostly just humor. I mean, One Dirty Tree, I got some people that were uncomfortable about it and stuff, you know, like family members and things like that. But I actually think your work is a lot like Chester Brown. And are you a fan of Chester Brown? Do you like him?
Yeah. I'm more like into his autobio as opposed to like his nonfiction stuff. Just because like usually that's like most of my taste is just like other people's memoir autobio things. And I'm like looking into like what they're doing. Yeah, no, it was kind of fun to read Chester for the first time, and that like I really hadn't read a lot of it, and I was doing my thing, and then like I'm reading it and I'm like, oh, the same the same choices, the same ideas about how this should fucking work. No, I joke I want to do a split with him about being a sex worker, and then I don't want to do anything with that man in that way, but like just our own experiences from either side of the fucking aisle on that.
That's great. Yeah, that'd be fascinating.
I want to cut like a pro wrestling promo on him where I come out and like call him out of hiding, like get him into the ring.
I think he's into it.
You think he'd be down?
Yeah, I think he would, honestly.
I've never talked to him before, so I have no idea what he's like other than like I'll listen to podcasts he's on, and I'm just like, I have many civilians that are like, you're like a new Joe Matt, and I was like, you shut your fucking mouth. It's just like just a little like about it. Yeah. I do I know you like Joe Matt. He's good. He's good, but I think I prefer Chester Brown. Like, I think I prefer being compared to him.
Is there anything? You probably get that question all the time. Like, are you going to do anything besides autobio? I mean, people are like, do you have an interest in fiction? I guess you don't, right?
I mean, I feel like I'm positioning myself to do some like big contract bullshit Barnes and Noble coffee table book on fitness at some point.
That's awesome.
Once I get like the autobio out of my system, like I have like all these plans and just kind of like pots on the stove in terms of like shit I could do and play with.
So how often do you work? Like, did you get anything done today so far?
Yeah. I'm like light tabling this. This is a perfect page to describe my next book. I just got this done, and I will change it up in varying degrees. It was super funny. I posted this one panel. This is for my third book. And my friend Cam was like, are you hitting the bong? I'm like, no, I'm hitting that dick, bro. Like, it's just this like sex scene. It's just like a single page, but it's perfect because like the spread is like me spitting cum into a toilet, and then the next panel is like, are you graduating from art school? I have an idea to make a t-shirt, and it's just me like naked, like disheveled, like, yeah man, keep talking about your dreams, like I'm all for it right now.
That's how big you work. Pretty big. That was a pretty big page.
Yeah man, I work traditional and shit. Like I actually fucking draw this shit out, and like I should, yeah, I'll get this other page.
Several layers.
I'm trying to do less as I scream into the microphone. I'm trying to do less just to save time because there's so many goddamn fucking boxes, but this is like the page right before it. But
awesome.
Yeah, I'm gonna post a bunch of this stuff on Patreon. Like once I have a chunk of it, I don't want to do that thing where I just post like a page a day and then you have to like break your wrist clicking on a bunch of shit to read a whole book at some point. But
so yeah. you do pencils on a different page and then ink over top of that?
I do like a sloppy layer, and then it really depends because I'm realizing now that if I do like a kind of extra colored pencil layer, I can like sell that layer for like $30 or something. But I do like a gross, just like it's whatever I need it to be kind of thing. And then if it's like a good page where it's like, this is something you can hang on a wall if you live in a crackdown and you don't care if children see it. Where it's just all contained and there's not like a fuck ton of text. So it's like, I'll get this as pretty as can be with doing multiple layers. But if it's just like people talking, heads, there's not a lot that I need to like really work through. It's just like, I'll just fucking throw a blue line on Bristol board. I just bought like, Black Friday got all of my paper for the next book. I just like dropped like $250 on like all of that. So I got like a stack from Blick today, like just the side of shit.
Oh yeah. What is it? What kind of Bristol do you use? What brand?
Just the 400 Strathmore. Like it's
Super
fine.
sweet.
Yeah. I don't know.
To ink, do you use Micron pens?
No, I use the Kuretake ones, like the brush pens. So I'm using like the pretty unstable in terms of just like, I don't know if this is like fine, and then I use super fine for like lettering, but sometimes, I don't know, I did this like fitness movement manual thing, and I used the rolling writer just because like I had a huge box of them, like let's just use these up. But mostly I use like Kuretake and Zebra pens, so if that company ever goes belly up, I'm like fucked. So
you letter on a separate layer then, I guess?
No, I keep it all in one. Like, I don't know. I'm at the point now where it's basically just like my handwriting. So it's like, yeah, I don't know.
Damn, you have good lettering, by the way. When I was reading Desperate Pleasures, I was like, damn, she has good lettering.
Like, I'm like not trying to brag. I don't even like fucking rule it out. I'm just like, this is just what it is. No. Like, especially now where I'm trying to do less like in between process work for this book. I'm just like, just first go in. Like, I don't know. Like, I've broken my hand to the point, I have a lot of carpal tunnel, like, don't get me wrong. It's come at a price, but I don't know, just...
And you were lettering with that brush? That little brush pen?
With the smaller one. So there's like a blue, and this is like the teal one or whatever. So my thing is, when the sticker starts to wear off with the barcode, then you have to change, because it's probably got like a weird little nipple on it, and it's gonna fuck it up. So I retire them, and then I just like like when I do my blacks, like I'll like fucking like use like an extra like layer of black around it, because I'm like, I don't trust my hand to like get the actual brush to like not fuck up.
Oh yeah.
My like liner. I like make a gutter of black around it. I use like a clear guy, so I can like go through and like get that kind of exact-ish amount of box. But no, I actually have a bit in this third book, because I do talk about, I'm trying to talk about like being a cartoonist in my autobio without it being too inside baseball, where it's like you're looking for me to talk about this person or you know, what have you. But I'm gonna do me in Pittsburgh.
What was that like being on tour with the Kilgore guys? Did you guys have a good time traveling around?
We I would say we did, but it was the kind of thing where it was like we had a city every night. And it was after a show. So if you could imagine going to a con, going to like Cake or TCAF or something, and then you get in a car and then do a reading every night for a week and go across the whole fucking country. Mm-hmm. Like we did our Columbus date where we got to hang out. Yeah. The day like right after like Monday night or whatever, after Cake, and that was good in that we were treated really well. Cafe Kerouac is great, and everyone in Columbus is awesome. But like then you go to Pittsburgh and then like there's nobody there but like Jim Rugg and Frank, and you're like, oh fuck, like are we gonna make gas money? And doing that and then going to New York halfway through, and you're like barely alive. And like Gabe Fowler is just freaking the fuck out. He's like, we don't have enough beers for the event. Like you guys didn't plan anything, and we're like just like hair falling out. Like we just drove a truck that's easily a lane and a half wide across Manhattan, full of comic books. It's like no sleep. I felt like I was the dad, and that I was just like, I'm gonna drive, and I'm gonna rule with an iron fist, and I'm gonna get us to where we need to be. And like it was really like, I really do think everyone should do something like that, where it's like you read your comic every night for like a week or two, and you get really good at like figuring out what's good about it and like how to actually face an audience and like not just be up there reading your fucking PowerPoint presentation of a fucking comic. So like we like road tested all of our work, and then like I came home and was like, oh, I know how I want to do readings from now on. Like I know what I don't want to do. And I've had a couple of friends that like since have like done similar things, in that they did it in like a very punk way of just like, I'm just gonna get a car and like do a couple shows myself and like invite people in the city or whatever to come and read with me. And like you see a difference in throwing together your own shitty weird little book tour that's just like frantically emailing people the weeks before being like, you sure you don't have anything you want to read? Like so I had fun. It was good. It was a good experience.
You guys rent a truck for that?
Yeah, and like I was like, I want to use this money and this time to live my dream of getting like a giant GM Sierra 1500. Yeah. Huge pickup truck. And it took us like easily 20 minutes to parallel park it in Chicago. It was a mess. But and everyone on the tour was like, this is too big. Like, why would we need this tank? And I'm like, trust me, you'll know why. And they get in and they all like fit and they all have leg room. And they're like, oh no, we understand now. Like this was the plan, was like some level of luxury. So, and it was like, we finished in Toronto and I dropped Tom in Buffalo because he has family there. Drove the other boys home to Chicago. And then I had to drive like 10 hours, 12 hours home just like by myself. It's just like, nothing left in my body. It was the most tired I think I've ever been. But
yeah, well, that's called paying your dues.
Yeah, and it felt like that and like I think to some extent all the shops were just like, I don't know how you're here and how you've done this, so like free booze. Like they were just like kind of concerned that we're like just big gritty knuckled motherfuckers like sitting there like, yeah, we gotta go to Baltimore tomorrow, and they're like, shit, man, okay. Like it was kind of like, okay, like this is something that you can do. Like you don't need permission. You can kind of just propose it as an idea and make it happen. So
yeah, and most venues will have you. Like if there's bookstores, you know, if you just say, can we just come over and do a reading and sell our comics, they'll let you do it. So
yeah,
it's really a DIY thing that you can do as an author.
And if they're like busy that night, they'll like tell you who to go to. Like they'll be like, oh, whatever. But yeah, now I know all these book places in all these states, and
right, and they know you.
When I do that again, yeah, exactly. And then they call me up and are like, hey, you made a mini. I need 20 of them. You know, so.
Exactly. Yeah, you're in an exciting spot, I think. All that stuff is like,
I'm trying to fucking enjoy it, man. Like, I don't know. Yeah. It's weird doing it from my house. But like, I don't know. I feel like there's the handful of people that I'm similarly excited just to read their work, and like I'm talking to other cartoonists on that level. It's just weird being like, I don't know. When you work on a project, I mean, there's a certain level of like, oh, when this is done, I'll go to a show and see my friends or something. And I was really excited for this year in that I felt like I definitely put off a lot of moments to see my friends and family to like make Desperate Pleasures. So, but at the same time, like I'm having conversations with you. I'm having conversations with other people that I'm like excited about. So it feels less isolating and weird.
Yeah.
But good. I'm gonna make Christmas cookies and keep working. Cool. So yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks a lot for doing this.
Everybody's talking about Please Don't Step on My Jinko Jeans from Fantagraphics Books. Slice of life humor in beautiful color. Get your copy now before it's too late. Hit the link in the description of this video